from whatever you're doing most likely. So I appreciate you taking the time to spend with me today and learn a little bit more about intuitive exercise, what it is, how it can benefit your eating disorder recovery if you're struggling, and how you can implement exercise in a healthy, recovered-centered way. Like you saw on my video, if you signed up and saw my video, exercise is something that we know it's part of a healthy lifestyle. It's part of being healthy. But when we're recovering from an eating disorder, it can be extremely difficult and really tricky about how to incorporate it into our lives without triggering ourselves, without falling backwards, without comparing, without all of those wonderful things that we love to do in our eating disorder. So like I said in my video, I had to develop something for me that allowed me to keep exercise in my life, but in a very safe way. So that's what this webinar is really all about. A lot of this is some stuff that I did and presented in my the online program I launched last year, and I'm currently revamping that whole program to relaunch it, hopefully, fingers crossed, later this year in the fall. Mainly because I just had daughters. She just turned 1, and my hopes was to launch it a little bit before this, but things happen, life happens. I had to be patient with myself. So I'm relaunching that hopefully this time in the fall. And so without further ado, we'll get started. I also wanted to just a little bit of housekeeping here. I know for myself, it's really easy when I'm on a webinar to kind of click on other things and have my Facebook tab open and oh, who's messaging me? Oh, let me check this mail while I'm listening to this. I encourage you and I invite you to really focus in on this, especially because this is something dealing with your eating disorder recovery. This is something super important. Without your recovery, you really have nothing. Our health, your recovery, it's one of the most important things in your life. I know it's the most important thing in my life. My recovery is still above all 100% my top priority. And even though I've been in recovery for 10 years, it's something that I always prioritize over everything. So if I know something might be difficult for me and it might trigger me, or I do everything to kind of shield myself from something that I know will be harmful for me. So I encourage you to, make this a priority for this next hour. Okay. And like I said, and there's a sticky note that's posted on this chat. If you can see the live chat box, I won't be taking questions for this webinar, mainly because I have to run right at 1 o'clock. I have to get off as soon as possible because I have to get to another client. So I apologize that we won't be able to do questions and answers for this webinar, but please, please, please feel free to email me at robin@intuitiveexercise.com, and I promise you I will get back to you. And if you got the email about today's webinar, if you're one of the first 2 people to email me after the conclusion of the webinar with the secret word, which I will give out at the end of the webinar, I sound like a game show person. If you're one of the first 2 people to email me, I will be sending you an intuitive exercise tank top. So there you go. So without further ado, we will get started. Most of today's webinar will be slides. I might jump in and out of a video, but we'll see. It's kind of just, we'll see what happens. Let's share my screen. And here it comes. Okay. All right, so intuitive exercise. Trust your body, follow your heart. Like I said, my name is Robin Baker. I'm a registered yoga instructor. I'm a registered or a certified personal trainer, certified Pilates instructor. I also have my BS in kinesiology. So yes, I very much have an exercise background. And so that's me in a nutshell, and I'm going to get a little bit more into my background in a little bit. But I want to kind of go over what we'll be covering in this webinar in the first place. So in this webinar, you will learn why the current exercise fitness model is harmful. And we probably already all know this. This is kind of like a little duh moment, right? Well, we're going to go over this a little bit more. The big lie the fitness industry perpetuates in order to profit, and you can probably guess what that is. How to tackle guilty feelings when you miss a workout because you're not being healthy, quote unquote. And usually that's your ed voice telling you, oh, you're not being healthy because you're not working out, right? The most important step in creating a healthy relationship with exercise. And again, this can be, maybe it's not your most important thing, but it's something I think is pretty important. Things to avoid and things to include in a body positive / ed recovery approach to exercise. how to intuitively schedule exercise, one of the biggest questions I get all the time, and how to navigate triggers in exercise environments. We all know the gym is one of the best places in the world, right? I'm being sarcastic. How do you navigate triggers when you are in an environment, especially an exercise environment? And, what do you do with that? How do you cope? What do you do? So we'll be talking about that. So first off, I went a little bit over this, but here it is again. Who am I? My name is Robin Baker. This is my 10th year in recovery from anorexia and obsessive exercise. I am so grateful for the journey I've been on. It's been a difficult journey. It's been a long journey, but it has been something that has truly made me the better person I am today, someone that's stronger, someone that can handle so many things I never thought I probably could have handled without going through an eating disorder. And so I am grateful for my eating disorder in the long run. I am the owner and operator of Astea Fitness. This is a fitness studio here in Orange County, California. And I mainly instruct yoga, Pilates, and do a little bit of personal training, but it's primarily single sessions on like one-on-one sessions. I have a bachelor's in kinesiology, which is exercise science. I'm certified in yoga, Pilates, resistance training, indoor cycling, and I've been in the fitness industry for 15 years. So if you do the math, 10 is bigger, or 15 is bigger than 10, right? So I was in the fitness industry when I was really, really like in and over my head in my eating disorder. And that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day of how that was. But as you can imagine, I was praised. I was admired for my quote unquote motivation and commitment to my exercise by not only trainers, but clients, people I knew. And so it made my recovery, I think, even about, a million times more difficult than it probably would have if I wasn't working as a personal trainer. And I'm also the member of the Yoga and Body Image Coalition, which is an amazing nonprofit that works to bring awareness about, the messages the yoga industry sends, and help creating, more dialogue around what a yoga body is and how yoga is so important and so beneficial for our body image. And yet the industry in which it kind of is in perpetuates a quote unquote yoga body. And it's a great coalition. If you have time, go ahead and look them up. They're fabulous. So I wanted to start with a question for you all. What are your beliefs about exercise and health? Just taking a few moments here to really, go into what do you believe about exercise and health? Maybe it's what's shaped your view on exercise and health. Your eating disorder might have affected that, or maybe it's just, maybe it hasn't. So current fitness culture says how you look is indicative of your health and worth. And this, my friends, is the biggest lie. That how you look is indicative of your health. It means if you're healthy or not, and it means if you're worthy or not, right? And that's what fitness culture, what their fitness marketing says to us, right? If we want to have a fit body or a healthy body, we must look this way. Exercise success means you're burning fat, you're toning, you're losing weight, all of that stuff. And that's what we're also sold that idea as well, that success when you're exercising means all of that stuff. It also says, fitness culture also says you must have an exercise goal if you want to stay motivated and consistent. So exercising just to exercise isn't really a thing. You have to have a goal, a motivation, you have to have some type of tangible thing in order to stay motivated, which is not true. If you aren't sweating, you aren't doing enough. A walk is not a real exercise, not real exercise. So I can tell you one of the best things I did when I got out of treatment was I went on walks for my exercise. And it was pretty difficult at first because I was so used to doing other things. But eventually it was so peaceful and so nice. And it was just a wonderful way of getting back into movement without obsessing and without being inside a gym. Exercise is pointless if you're not eating right. You probably heard this so many times. And if you are in recovery and you're practicing intuitive eating, which can mean a variety of things given where you're at with the intuitive eating process, exercise, you might see that exercise is pointless without, if you're eating, quote unquote, eating right, and say like, well, I'm intuitive eating. What's the point of exercising right now? And you'll come to find out by the end of this webinar what the point really is. Using a fitness tracker to make sure you're doing enough. So you'll find out what I feel about fitness trackers. If you didn't see my email earlier this week about fitness trackers or activity trackers, you only get the benefit of exercise if you follow all the rules. And there's a lot of rules that the fitness culture says you must follow. You must, get this many days in a week. It must be this many minutes. Your heart rate must be this between this and this number. You should do high intensity these days, low intensity these days, upper body X amount of times a week. I mean, there's rules up the wazoo about exercise, and it makes it so complicated. And I see this even with clients that aren't struggling with an eating disorder or recovery. I have so many people come to me and they're completely confused as what they should be doing, and they read too many articles, and it's like information overload. It's just like, just move your body, just move your body. It's not that difficult. Exercise must be a part of a healthy lifestyle. And as you can see, I've emphasized the word must. Exercise is not something you have to do. It's not something you have to do. And before we even start this webinar, I want to let you know that if exercise is not part of your recovery right now, that's fine. It doesn't have to be. Exercise does not mean you're healthy, and it doesn't mean you're unhealthy. It's just part of the overall healthy picture. If you look at a holistic health map, it's one piece. It's good if it's included, but it's not something you have to do. You don't have to do structured workouts, okay? I really want to make that clear to people. And especially I'm in the fitness industry. What am I saying here, right? So I wanted to point this out because all of those things that the fitness culture says really, really focuses on weight loss and body shape manipulation, right? And most of marketing in exercise and fitness really focuses on losing weight and toning, or getting rid of, let me get rid of this saggy place here, or here's my problem area, quote unquote. So it's manipulating your body somehow. And when we focus on this, this is what happens. And this happens irregardless if you're struggling with an eating disorder or not. So there's increased risk of chronic psychological stress and cortisol production, mainly because we're obsessing about our weight and our shape. And what happens too when we focus on weight and shape, and this is for people typically that aren't struggling with eating disorder, and maybe people that are struggling with eating disorders, is that the weight likes to yo-yo up and down. And that places a lot of stress on the body, which increases cortisol production. And it's really, really harmful for your body. You have increased anxiety about weight. Well, obviously, preoccupation with weight, as many of you probably have experienced, or maybe you're experiencing right now. You exhibit eating disorder behaviors. There's inflammation, hypertension, and insulin resistance. And this goes along with the dynamic shifting of weight. So if you put on a lot of weight, you lose a lot of weight, you put on a lot of weight, lose a lot of weight. Even if you yo-yo back and forth, that movement of weight and that's constant stress on your body, and that causes a lot of inflammation in the body. And as most of you may know, inflammation is really that's a precursor to cancer. And I don't want to start scaring everybody and all that stuff, so that's a whole nother rabbit hole to go down. It also really is harmful for your insulin levels, and I myself have an issue with blood sugar levels, mainly because of the dramatic weight loss and weight gain that I've experienced in my lifetime. And there's also the stigmatization and discrimination against fat individuals, and that's, again, a whole nother rabbit hole to go down. But I think one of the most overriding things that I experienced in my eating disorder was this fear of fat. And that if I was fat, I was, fill in the blank. I was lazy, I was bad, I was unlovable, I didn't belong, all of those horrible feelings that we are so scared of if we're fat, what people will think of us. And the discrimination of fat in this country and other, I think, first world countries is pretty nuts. It's everywhere. And it's something that we don't address very much. And like I said, this is a whole other thing to get into, but this is what happens when we focus on weight loss and body shape manipulation through exercise. So intuitive exercise, which is what we're going to be talking about today. What the heck is it? If you guys are familiar with intuitive eating, which I'm sure some of you are because you're in recovery or you're in recovery from an eating disorder, you're working on it. It's basically the same idea, listening to your cues of your own body, taking focus off of weight, body size, and shape, and focusing on how you feel. And this is before, during, and after exercise. And these three key points of, intuitive exercise, feeling it before, during, and after, it's just always being aware, being mindful, practicing that mindfulness when you're doing exercise. Taking cues from the internal rather than the external, meaning mirrors, scales, measuring tapes, all of that fun stuff that we know can be very triggering and harmful to our recovery. So taking cues from how we feel internally rather than all these external things. Engaging in physical activity that feels good and is enjoyable. And this is a biggie for intuitive exercise. Feeling good and enjoyable, ways that you move your body. If you look at the current fitness culture with CrossFit and the boot camps and a lot of the no pain, no gain way of thinking, feeling good and enjoyable is not in the picture. I say this as a broad sweeping statement. I know there might be plenty of CrossFit or boot camp places where it is enjoyable, where the instructor does make it fun. But at the end of the day, they really, really want to make sure you feel sore the next day. You've targeted those areas, all of those zingy words that you probably have heard if you've gone to any of these classes. So really placing a emphasis on feeling good and enjoying your exercise and movement. And also moving in a variety of ways. I know for myself, when I was, underwater in my eating disorder, that I was dead set on only exercising a certain way or doing a certain exercise. I did not want to do anything else but that one thing. And if I did do that something else, changed my exercise, choice, it gave me a ton of anxiety, it made me nervous. So moving a variety of ways is a really, really healthy way of exercising. So step one, exchange old harmful beliefs about exercise and health, which the ones we've discussed, for new ones. So how do we do this? Solution, the health at every size approach. And health at every size is something that I did not come up with. I am not going to take credit at all for this. This is one of the most incredible things that has really helped me in my recovery. It's based off a book by Linda Bacon. So if you're more curious about it, you can always go to Amazon and check out Health at Every Size by Linda Bacon. It's an amazing book that talks about health at every size. And so here, going a little bit more into what health at every size is, according to Linda Bacon, and this is the exercise approach to it. It does not mean that everyone is healthy regardless of weight. You may or may not be healthy at a weight that is, healthy for you. So this is something to always remember when, maybe you're struggling with your eating disorder, maybe you've lost a lot of weight, and you can say, well, if you twisted the words on this, you're like, well, I'm still healthy because health is at every size. Not really. That's not really what that's saying. It's saying that, weight is just another part of the health equation. It doesn't dictate, it's not the overriding factor. It's not the be all end all determining factor of your health. Fitness is independent of body size and shape. So your fitness level is not determined by your body size and shape. Weight is not the biggest determining factor of your health, like I just said at the first one, the first bullet point. It's simply one component of your overall health. Weight neutral approach to exercise. So taking a weight neutral approach to exercise, meaning like it's neither good nor bad. It's not, weight is just weight. It doesn't mean anything. And I always say, think about a foot size. So you don't look at someone and say, let me see your shoes. They hold up their shoes. Oh my God, your foot is so big. Have you been to the doctor? You must be feeling horrible. Your foot is insanely huge. Oh my gosh, I bet you have diabetes because you have such big feet. Could you imagine if we did that? I think it'd be hilarious. It's the same thing. A lot of us, we are built the way we are built based on genetics. And I know many people that are in larger bodies and they're extremely healthy. They practice like healthy behaviors, and your blood readings are great, everything's good, but they're just in a larger body. And of course they still get a lot of backlash from their doctor saying to lose weight and all that stuff. But for what's the point? You're healthy, right? So you wouldn't go up to someone, look at their feet to determine if they're healthy. And it's the same thing with weight. Exercise is only one component of your overall health. There is also emotional health, spiritual health, occupational health, mental health, relationship health, etc. So like I said on the first bullet point, exercise and weight, they're just like, they're one component in this overall holistic health, like way of seeing things, way of looking at your exercise and health. So starting now, this is what you can do now. What is one negative, harmful belief or practice you have toward exercise? And some of you, thank you so much also for filling out this survey. Some of you answered that question for me in your survey. I know some of you are, it's struggling by using exercise with purging calories. And it's hard. I mean, I did that for a very long time, and it's something that it's a lot of work to get away from, because exercise, right, is praised in our society. So why would we stop doing something that people applaud us for? That's ridiculous. But it can be, I have to, in order to eat, I have to exercise to burn off the calories. That's a very big negative, harmful belief about exercise. So what empowering and health at every size based belief can you replace it with? What empowering and probably scary action can you practice that reflects this new belief? So I did an example here. In order to believe blank, I must blank. So in order to believe I can be healthy without exercising every day, I must start taking more days off of exercise in order to prove to myself that my health will not suffer. I didn't finish the sentence there, but that's what I meant by that. So, all of these things that we're going to go over today, it's great to change beliefs and your thinking, but what recovery is really all about, and what's the hardest part, is taking an action and making a change in your daily routine and what you do, not by what you think. Thinking is great, but that's not going to change your recovery. I can only imagine, I know I did this so many times, I would think, okay, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this. And I get up to do whatever scary action I knew I had to do in order to work towards recovery. And I get so close to it, and then I'd stop and I wouldn't do it. And it would be so frustrating. And so I know it's hard. I know it's a huge leap of faith. But I encourage you, there is the other side. The other side is there. You can get there. It's just taking that leap of faith and just like holding your nose and jumping in and doing it. And the more you take the actions, the more clarity you will have and the more courage you will have every time you take that action. So a lot of these things I'm talking about today require an action, not just changing your beliefs. That's my little soapbox right now. All right, step 2, create a positive and recovery-centered experience with exercise. And how do we do that? We find your joyful movement. So what does that mean? What is joyful movement? So what did you like to do when you were a kid or anytime before you were impacted with an eating disorder? And I say that because I know some of you may have been struggling with an eating disorder even as a child, which is so incredibly, it's heartbreaking to me. So I started struggling with my eating disorder when I was 17, so more closer to adulthood. But for me, I always go back to what did I do when I was a child? What was my go-to movement? What did I love to do? I loved to dance. I played basketball. I did hula hoop outside. I rode my bike. I mean, I did so many different things. And every time I just felt great. Like I felt free. I felt happy doing them. And it wasn't about, okay, let me check my fitness tracker. Did I hit my 2,000 steps? Or my 10,000 steps, or whatever it is. It was more about enjoyment and having fun and being with people. We didn't go out and do these things as a kid by ourselves. Or maybe we did. I did hula hoop by myself when I got really bored. But, we typically did activities as a child or before, eating disorder with other people. And it was a social event. And I think with eating disorders too, it's an isolating disease. We move away from being around other people mainly because we don't want people to see our behaviors and we're ashamed of what we're doing. So I encourage you, if you are in recovery and you're trying to figure out different ways to incorporate exercise, is to find a group of people, do something with a group of people. I know where I live, there's a lot of hiking groups. We have a great amount of hills near us, near the ocean, and it's absolutely gorgeous, especially this time of year. So there's a lot of groups that go hiking. There's a lot of walking groups. I'm so blessed to live in an area where there's plenty of places to walk and ride bikes and a lot of great weather. So finding a group of people it's always a great thing, especially when you're in eating disorder recovery. So what is joyful movement? Kind of getting a little bit more into what exactly does that mean? It's any activity where you're enjoying it simply for doing it, not for how you think it might benefit your body later. So you're not doing this movement because you think, oh, I'm going to do this so my thighs are thinner. I'm going to do this so I have more toned triceps, right? You're not, targeting a muscle area. You're moving just for the sake of moving. It's intrinsic reward versus extrinsic reward. So the internal reward of doing it just because you like to do it. And by the way, that picture's of me, gosh, I'm going to say 4 years ago with my son, who had just probably maybe 1.5 in that picture. He just turned 5. So he definitely keeps me moving. Be flexible, have a flexible approach to your exercise and your movement. Your joyful movement will change over time. So what you like to do now, maybe it is something you like to do when you were a kid, and you might want to try that. But what you like to do now, because your body is different now, it has different aches and pains or needs, it might be different than what you did when you were a kid, and it might be different in a year, a month, maybe 5 years, it'll be different. Who knows? The one thing to remember is being flexible and not saying, well, I used to like to do this. Why don't I like doing this anymore? I should like to do this, right? If there's ever a should, you should always be aware when there's a should. Be flexible with what you like to do. It's based on physical and emotional energy at any given time. So we're going to get a little bit more into emotional energy later. But really what gives you joy in that day, in that hour, might be completely different from what gave you joy a week ago or yesterday or a month ago. There's some days where I really want to do yoga, and I got to get to a yoga class, mainly because my brain's scattered and I'm kind of, I'm feeling overwhelmed, and I know yoga will center me, it will ground me. So I know I need that. It's something that helps me. But then there's some days where I'm like, God, I just really want to take a walk. It's such a beautiful day. That seems like the best thing in the world. And so then I would go take a walk instead. So it's based on emotional energy as well. A variety of movement types. Like I said last slide, you want to have variety. Think outside the box. So I think someone wrote in the survey that they have a couple kids and it's really hard to keep up with their exercise regimen or what they're doing, and it's really strict, and they feel like it's kind of with their eating disorder voice or whatever. But think outside the box of movement. Think outside of the gym, outside of an exercise class, outside of a yoga class even. Maybe it is walking with your kids. Maybe it is, playing catch with them in the park. Maybe it's chasing them around the living room or putting on some music and having a dance party in the living room. I've done that so many times. I don't think of it as exercise. I think of it as entertaining my children. But then I'm like, oh wow, okay, I'm getting a little tired now. We need to stop. So it does turn into exercise. But it's extremely joyful, and I'm doing it not because I want to tone my butt, but because I want to move, and it's killing two birds with one stone. I'm entertaining my kids and I'm having fun. So start now. Here's another action item for you. What are 2 ways you can move your body joyfully today? Not maybe today, but can you think of 2 things today that's a way to move your body more joyfully? So what are 2 activities you love just because you have fun doing them, regardless of the outcome? So regardless if you burn X amount of calories, or you feel sore, or you feel like, you broke a sweat or not. If you have fun doing that, maybe lean towards choosing those as your quote unquote exercises or your ways to move. Again, this is not easy stuff. As simple as I make it sound, it's not easy. It can be very scary because you have to let go of so many beliefs surrounding exercise, which is why we went over that at the beginning. It's hard. It's like, okay, I really know I need to do this and I really want to do this, but it's really scary. So one thing that I had a mentor say to me about 2 years ago was, allow fear to be the compass guiding your path or telling you which way to go. So with this, if you feel fear in letting go of those old beliefs about exercise and just allowing yourself to do exercise that's fun or movement that's joyful, really be aware of the feelings you're having about that. Does it make you anxious? Does it make you feel fearful? Does it make you scared? If it does, great. That means you're on the right track. That means you're moving in the right direction, because it is scary. It's scary to let go of those old beliefs. It's scary to say, I'm just going to go walk with my kids and that's my exercise. It is scary. It is not easy. Or I'm just going to go walk the dog and that's my exercise. I'm not going to go to the gym. I'm not going to do I'm going to do something that's fun. I'm going to go play ping pong. It doesn't seem like it's exercise, but this is something that it's really important. It's a really important step to take in your recovery. I highly encourage that you move towards that fear. So step 3, trust your body by listening to its subtle and honest messages. Your body is not out to get you. It will not lie to you. It is here telling you the truth. Believe me, it has no hidden agenda, even though we've been told it does, right? So how do we do this? We have no fitness trackers, no numbers, no scales, etc. We learn how to be mindful to our body's messages and practice courage in order to trust them. Like I just said in the last slide, it's scary as all hell. Practice courage. That means do the thing you fear to do, right? It's not meaning I did the easy thing. No, you did the hard thing. You did the thing that's really scary, which means maybe backing off, maybe not doing something so difficult, maybe not looking at that activity or fitness tracker. That's scary. That's anxiety provoking. That's recovery, right? So this is your solution, and I know it's not easy. So stepping away from numbers, which I would hope most of you have done already if you're in some kind of recovery. I recently read an article about a girl that's in recovery from bulimia and says she still weighs herself like once a week, and she says it's good for her. And I'm like, more props to you, girlfriend, but I can't do that. I don't know how you do that in your recovery, but good for you. So maybe a scale, maybe weighing yourself on a scale is part of your recovery. I'm not here to tell you what should or shouldn't be part of your recovery. I know for myself, scales are completely out of the picture. They're completely out of the question for me. And I kind of believe that to be true for most people in recovery. So that's why I say step away from the numbers, even if it's like looking at the calories burned on the treadmill, if you're walking on the treadmill for whatever reason, or on the elliptical, or wherever you're at. If there's numbers involved with them, just cover them up. Just put a little towel over that. Don't look at that. Doesn't need to be looked at. Just ignore it. So our body is a complex open system, not a simple math equation. I'm sure most of you have heard of calories in versus calories out, right? The calories you take in must match the calories you put out in order to maintain the same weight, blah, 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 blah. And I'm here to tell you that is complete BS, because that system, the law of thermodynamics is based on a closed system. Our body is an open system, meaning there's a lot of other things that get impacted by it. The environment, the air we breathe, the things that come in contact with our skin. There's so many things that affect our body and how it works. It's not a closed system. And the law of thermodynamics was based on a closed system. So not all these different factors were put into, were part of it. So don't ever buy that BS about calories in versus calories out. Just want to really point that out there. So these are a couple of quotes from people talking about fitness trackers and kind of the numbers stuff. And this is from Mandy Oaklander from Time Magazine. She says, and this was about an article about fitness trackers or activity trackers, So simply spitting out your stats and comparing them to what you should be doing isn't motivating, research is showing. So even though people see what they should be doing, it's not motivating them to do more. This is from Ryan Smith from US News. He says they perpetuate an eating disorder mentality that more exercise and less food is always better. And I couldn't have put that better. The thing about activity trackers is it is always encouraging you to look at your calories, to do more movement, do more. You know, you get badges every time you do more, and that really perpetuates that eating disorder mentality. And this is from Kelly Coffey from US News. She says, if you're focused on a number, a goal, and that's the point of the activity you're doing, meaning, you know, you're not doing it for fun, you're not doing joyful movement, you're not allowing any space available to develop a relationship to what you're doing, meaning you're not going to connect to it on a deeper level. And one of the things I really encourage with my clients, be eating disorder patient or not, is that they find something that they can do for a long time, that they develop an attachment to, that they develop in a relationship to, that they love to do, again, simply because it's fun and it feels good. One of the most important things to our health is movement. And I don't say this because, again, I don't think exercise has to be part of everyone's lifestyle. But I do say that, you know, when you find something you like to do, you do it because it's fun and it's enjoyable. And that doesn't have to mean running. That doesn't have to mean swimming. That can be something just, I don't know, like I said, dancing with your kids, walking the dog. But it's something that you truly enjoy just for doing it. So starting now, here's another action item. What is one way you can start being more aware and mindful of your body's subtle messages? One way. So I didn't write like an example for this, so I hope you can answer this yourself. But for me, my one way is I like to be grounded. I like to kind of have the moment where I sit, I notice my breath, I notice the floor I'm sitting on, and just taking a moment to just completely bring myself into the present moment. And I do this a lot in yoga, obviously, but I try to do this at least once a day during my day. Sometimes it might be sitting in the car right before I get out of the car and just taking a moment to close my eyes and just be aware and be present. And that helps me connect to my body and be aware of what I'm feeling right now. So what is one way, here's your action item, you can practice courage when your body's messages goes against what you think you should be doing? And this is in regards to exercise, right? So action item, like what can you do? What can you do when your body wants you to do something, or when your body's messages, maybe it says rest, and that goes against what you think you should be doing. Oh, I should be working out right now. God, I haven't worked out for a week. I really should be doing something, but my body's so tired. I'm achy. You know, I'm just getting over this flu, and I don't really feel like it yet. So I'm still so tired and I feel so weak. But God, I should be doing something. It's been too long. I'm sure you've had those conversations in your head back and forth, right? Arguing. So what is one action you can do to practice courage? Listen to your body. I know it's not a trick question. This is a very easy answer here. Listen to your body and follow through to what your body's message is telling you. Ignore the shoulds. Don't listen to the shoulds. Don't heed the shoulds. So step 4, honor your body's message. So this goes along with, okay, now we listen to our body. How do we honor it? So take action, even when it's scary, like I said earlier in the webinar. Identify your energy levels and courageously stay true to your definition of health and how you feel. Don't worry about what all those fitness professionals are saying about, you know, how many times you should be working out. You are in control of your health. You define what health is for you, especially since you're in eating disorder recovery. There is a whole nother definition of health for you that is not within the fitness marketing agenda. They have no idea what we've gone through, and they have no idea what's going on with us. And I have so many conversations with fitness professionals where I have to get really, really calm and centered when I talk to them, because it gets me really, really passionate. I'll say kindly passionate about what they're doing. So sharing with you this energy level continuum. And this is kind of like the hunger fullness chart. We have 0 is exhausted and 10 is fully charged. And then we have everywhere in between. That happy medium place is rested, where you feel rested, but you're not, you're not tired and you're not like fidgety, you're not like, jittery or untired, I like to say. So it's right in the middle. It's like that calm, centered place where there's no nervous energy and you're not a little sluggish because maybe you had a late night. And this is something I presented in you can see my 6-week journey to empowered recovery, my 6-week program. And if you are interested in getting this energy level continuum printout, I would gladly send it to you. Just shoot me an email, robin@intuitiveexercise.com. And this is something to kind of pull out when you're trying to decide on what you should do for exercise. So energy is also affected by emotions. Staying intuitive with exercise asks you honor both your physical and emotional energy cues. So the 2 questions, how do I feel? And that's more the physical. What do I need? Emotional. So an example of this would be a couple of days ago when I was still fighting off this cough. Physically, I felt tired. I hadn't slept very well, mainly because my daughter decided she wanted to party all night, and I got like 4 hours of sleep, which bless her heart, or not bless her heart. So I was not feeling very good physically. Emotionally, I was getting a little anxious, I have to say, because I knew this webinar was coming up. I hadn't fully finished these slides. I am teaching a class tonight. I had so many things to do for my work, and I was feeling a little like, oh my God, feeling a little overwhelmed. So what do I need? Emotionally, I feel overwhelmed. I need something. So I decided to just do some gentle stretching on the floor in my studio here. I didn't even get on I have a Pilates machine and power plate. I massaged a little bit on my power plate to help me get my mobility a little bit better. And that's just kind of like sitting on it and stretching my muscles. But I needed to get some kind of like my overwhelm out, and breathing helps me with that. Feeling grounded, stretching helps with that. I didn't feel like doing a full-on yoga thing because that required too much thinking and I was too tired to do any kind of thinking on my part. So that's what I did. That was my exercise for the day. There it was. And that's how I identified that. And that's kind of like going back to this energy level continuum. If I look about how do I feel? That day I was like drained. I wasn't completely exhausted, but I was drained. I had no sleep and I felt like crap because I was still getting over this cold, whatever it is. So then, obviously I answered those 2 questions and that's what I came up with. So that was my exercise. Practicing mindfulness. So this mindfulness, as you've probably learned in your recovery, is something that, it's something that we are really taught to do in our recovery, and it's really important. It goes on all areas of our recovery. So checking in before exercising, how do I feel right now? Do I want to exercise right now? And sometimes the answer will be no. And then it's your tough job of saying, okay, I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to go home. I'm going to go lay in bed, or I'm going to choose something different. And I drove to this class. I signed up for it. I know I'm going to lose my $8 or whatever it is, but you know what? My recovery is more important than my $8. I need to honor it. I'm going to choose something different. I'm going to go stretch instead, or I'm going to go take a walk instead, or I'm going to go call someone. I'm going to go meditate, whatever it is. Check in right before you do your exercise. How do I feel right now? Do I want to exercise right now? Does my true self want me to exercise right now? Not does my eating disorder want me to exercise right now? Do I want to exercise right now? And then during exercise, about 15 minutes in, or maybe halfway into that exercise, how am I doing physically and emotionally right now? How is what I'm doing right now serving my recovery? Am I pushing through fatigue? Am I pushing through pain? Am I listening to my true self? Am I honoring my body? Meaning, am I listening to its messages? Even if I think I should still stay here and finish the workout. Being mindful during exercise can be very difficult because, you thought, I've already made the commitment to this. I'm going to finish it. I'm not going to half-ass it. I'm going to go through the whole thing. But that's not really the objective to your recovery, and it doesn't serve your recovery to do that. The harder thing and the more recovered center thing to do, if it feels like it is not serving you right now, is to get out of there and leave, or just stop what you're doing right then. It's going to be super hard and super scary, I guarantee you, but it will serve your recovery. You will not die from it. You will grow stronger from it, believe me. And then after exercise, how do I feel physically and emotionally right now? So this is a really good time to reflect on, how do I feel about my body right now and why? Mainly because if you've gone to a class, and this can be any class, or I tend to identify this with classes because it's harder to just leave an exercise class, right? Because a lot of times when you're in an exercise class, the instructor might say something that's triggering, or might bring out, awareness to a body part that you don't want to be aware about, or it can make you really upset. And that's really something to notate and remember, because it's, fool me once, shame on me, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. You don't want to go back to the same instructor if you know they have the tendency to body shame or say things that can be triggering to you. So really notate and know that, again, your recovery is the most important thing. If you can control where your environment is and stay away from triggering voices or words or phrases, please do so. Do not put yourself in the lion's den. There is no point, okay? I hope you heard that. Intuitively scheduling exercise. So this, again, is one of the biggest things I get questions about. How do we intuitively schedule exercise? Because like intuitive eating, right? It's not like intuitive eating where we say, you know what, it's lunchtime, I'm hungry. What do I feel like having? Well, I feel like having a hamburger because that sounds really good and I want something warm. So, okay, I'm going to have a hamburger. It's different. If you feel like, yeah, I really feel like moving right now, but it's 2:00, I'm in the office and I don't have my workout clothes, or I don't have any shoes, I have heels on. Okay, what am I supposed to do? So it's a little different in that you can't just drop everything to exercise. So exercise, something you have to remember is exercise will not always be your number one priority, and that's okay. It might not also be available to you for whatever reason, maybe an injury, maybe an illness, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be your number one priority. It doesn't always have to be part of your life. Be flexible and practice healthy coping methods when you cannot exercise. So when exercise is not an option for you, and it's really difficult and overwhelming, and there's anxiety that pops up, practice healthy coping methods, meaning talk to someone, maybe a friend, maybe a therapist, maybe someone that's been supportive of your recovery. Practice breath work if that's something that helps you. Whatever you've established as your coping mechanism, which hopefully you have with your therapist or whatever professional has been helping you with your recovery, practice it. Find time to make for those methods. With scheduling exercise, I take it week by week. I sometimes even take it day by day. I have 2 kids and I own my own business. And I say I have a 3rd kid because I have a husband. And I have so many other things that are going on in my life that there's some times when, like I said, exercise is not my priority all the time. It usually isn't. Usually it's my kids that are my priority. So I look at my weeks one week at a time. So usually around Saturday or Sunday on the weekend, I look at my week ahead. I know what times the yoga teachers I have, and I know I like to do walks on certain days. There's certain things I like to do on certain days, mainly because, and I'll get into this, of how busy I am or less busy I am on that days, or how much time I have available for those. So if I look at my day and look at a Monday, and I have a lot of clients that are gone out of town, and oh look, it's the time that they're out of town. My yoga teacher teaches that time. I'm gonna plan to go to yoga that day. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. And it can still be difficult when it doesn't happen, because I plan for it. But that's when I practice being flexible. That's when I practice my coping mechanisms. That's when I say, you know what, it's okay. It's just not available to me today. I'll do it another time. It's not the end of the world. Or maybe I have 20 minutes to stretch instead, because at the end of the day, it's the stretching that really makes me feel good in my body. but I plan it on the days or when I know the classes are always available to me. And if it's not, I try to think of something else I can do by myself. Maybe I do my own yoga in my studio instead if something comes up and that time is no longer available. So I plan it. I actually look at my week and I plan when I'm going to do my joyful movements, when I'm going to do the things I like to do. And I always take, like I said here, it says taking class schedules into consideration. Busier or less busy. So for me, the lesser the day, the less busy day that is, the better it is for me to exercise. I know some people when they're busier at work, like if they have a desk job and they have a lot of projects due, it's better for them to get some kind of movement in that day because it feels good to get up and move. For me, I'm on my feet all the time for my job and I move around a lot. So if I have a very busy day, the last thing I want to do is do any exercise because I've been moving all day and I'm just like, I'm done. So if I have a day where I have like 8 clients, I'm like, I'm not working out. I'm not doing anything that day. I'm not going to the gym. I'm not taking a walk. I'm not going to yoga that day. That day is out. It's done. So really what works for you? It depends on what your job is, what your day looks like without the exercise in there. What helps you? What makes you feel good in your body? And then taking class schedules into consideration, like I said. You always check in. So right before you go to the whatever class or whatever thing you had scheduled for your movement, you want to check in with yourself. Ask yourself the questions, how do I feel? What do I need? Do I really want to do this right now? Am I super tired even though I planned this? If I am, do I still want to do this or do I want to stay and just take a nap? Do I want to stretch for 20 minutes and call it a day? What do I need right now? So letting go of what you think you should do or what you've scheduled yourself for or you're planning to do, let go of all that. Let that go. Honor yourself, honor your body's messages. No 2 weeks may look the same. My weeks don't look anything the same. Nothing's ever normal. There's no schedule. There's no regular time that I do anything. So it's fine. It doesn't have to be that way. Give yourself permission to not exercise. You do not have to exercise to be healthy, and I want to really stress that. It's part of the overall health, but structured exercise is not a must. Take a childlike approach. Always be learning. So always learn from what your mistakes, from things you do that you regret. Learn from those things. Don't look at them like, I never did that. That never happened. I'm going to pretend like it never happened, shove it under the rug. No, let's learn from those things and apply it in the future for when you are planning your exercise and you are doing exercise. So getting closer to the end here, really, really staying courageously true to yourself, which is the following your heart part of intuitive exercise. That means your true self, not the self that is identified with the eating disorder, that self that is within you, within all of us, that is the light within you. That means stop Fitspiration, stop looking at the Fitspo images, stop following people on Instagram that are harmful to your recovery, and when it's harmful, but you still look. Stop it. Stop doing that. You don't need that. Weight neutral approach. Take the numbers out of the picture. I don't think weight has any place in eating disorder recovery. It's neither good nor bad, but it's best when you completely leave it out of the picture altogether. Practice self-care. So that does not mean sitting in a bathtub and lighting up candles. It does not mean going to yoga classes. It does not mean meditation. Practice self-care just means doing something for yourself that makes you feel good. That might mean taking a nap. That might mean laying on the ground while the kids are sleeping or nothing's going on and just closing your eyes for 5 minutes and breathing. It doesn't have to be something elaborate. It just needs to be accessible at the time. Mindful of self-talk. Ed voice may sound healthy. This is so true, right? So many times our ed voice disguises itself as the healthy voice. So really be aware of when your eating disorder is being tricky and tries to mask itself as healthy. Focus on how exercise makes you feel. It is more important how you feel when you move than how you look and the numbers. Always keep that in mind. So start now. Practice intuitively scheduling your exercise. So look at your next week. This weekend, look at your next week and say, okay, what 2 days look like that you can schedule in your joyful movement? What 2 days can you plan that joyful movement in? Plan coping strategies if you need to cancel or reschedule it. If for whatever reason it doesn't pan out, that you can do that joyful movement. Plan some coping strategies. Know that you can return to your breath. Know that you can stay calm with this. That is not the end of the world, that you always have next week. Or maybe you can move it to a different day for whatever reason that week. I don't know. Maybe you can change a different day. But know that it's not the end of the world, that it doesn't mean you're a failure, that, you know, you're unhealthy, whatever. It's not, that's not true. Give yourself permission to change your mind even at the last minute. So even if you've planned this out, even if you've committed to friends to meeting them somewhere to do a hike, know that you have permission to change your mind for whatever reason, and you do not owe anyone any explanation. When you're honoring your recovery, that is, again, number one priority. So at the last minute, if for whatever reason it just doesn't feel right with your true self, and you feel like your eating disorder is kind of pushing you to do this because it's what's expected, you've made a commitment, you need to get activity because that's what's healthful, that is that's a red light to say, oh, you know what, I need to stop and I need to not go today. So really be true to your true self. And that is it. I know that was a lot in 1 hour. I kind of jammed it in there. So like I said, I'm not taking questions on this webinar, but if you look below here on the slide, you can see you can email me at robin@intuitiveexercise. And these are two things. You can follow me on Instagram at Estea Fitness, which is the name of my yoga and Pilates studio, Estea Fitness. And I'm also on Facebook under Estea Fitness. So right now, I'm going to give you the super secret word of the day. So if you email me, the first two people that email me at robin@intuitiveexercise, the secret word, you will get an Intuitive Exercise tank top. And the super secret word is intuitive. I know that's not very super secret, but that is the super secret word. It's intuitive. So again, thank you so much for joining me. I hope this answered all of your questions. And if not, like I said, please feel free to email me. I'm going to zoom out of this for a little quick bit so I can just say bye to you guys and unshare my screen. Let's see. It's going to go back. So again, thank you so much, you guys, for spending your Friday lunch hour with me, if it's your lunch hour. Happy World Eating Disorder Day. And like I said, please send me any questions you have regarding this webinar. So thank you so much, and please stay in touch. I will let all of you guys know when my 6-week program is available again. Fingers crossed this fall. Keep strong in your recovery. Keep moving towards your fear. Your life is waiting for you. You are so special, and you have so much to give the world. Don't let your eating disorder take it from you. I love you guys. I'll see you soon. Bye.